Welcome to Official News Network. Please subscribe and check notification box to get all breaking news alert.
FBI issues horrifying warning about what's coming now that Antifa fighters teamed up with #1 terror group. In what seems like we now have our very own homegrown terror group, the FBI this week has released a series of documents warning the American public that far left-wing groups such as Antifa and a few others are actively planning to wreak violent havoc across the United States of America and the world in 2018. According to American author Edward Klein, the Barack Hussein Obama administration, along with George Soros and the Clinton machine, plotted this course of civil unrest shortly after Trump won the election in order to remove him by force. Best-selling author Edward Klein's latest best-selling book is called All Out War: The Plot to Destroy Trump. Klein reveals that this plot started in the Obama White House just weeks after Donald Trump won the 2016 election. Klein explains, Susan Rice was invited to come to a dinner party and give the president, Obama, a plan, and her plan was to unmask the names of Donald Trump associates who had been inadvertently picked up by electronic intercepts by the National Security Agency, NSA. The names of these Americans were supposed to remain confidential. She, Susan Rice, suggested they would be unmasked, meaning they would become public, and they would be distributed widely throughout the intelligence community. Inevitably, therefore, she admitted those names would be leaked to the mainstream media, MSM, and the story would begin that there was collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians. This, of course, was always a fairy tale because we have had an investigation going on for more than a year and a half, and no one has come up with a scintilla of evidence to prove that. She, Susan Rice, wasn't doing anything illegal, but clearly she was doing something unethical, to put it mildly, because President Obama and his national security advisor were using the intelligence community as a weapon against their political enemy Donald Trump. So, will anyone be investigated? Klein says, I honestly don't believe that there is going to be an investigation of Barack Obama, the former president. I do think, however, that there is a lot of pressure on Jeff Sessions to investigate Hillary Clinton and her connections with the Russians in commissioning that famous, or infamous, Russian dossier that we all know about that accused Donald Trump of all kinds of sexual misconduct and collusion with the Russians, almost all of which has been disproved as disinformation from the Russians. We do know that she, Hillary Clinton, actually authorized the purchase of this dossier and used campaign funds to pay her law firm to actually launder that money and use it to buy this dossier. That's against the law because you are supposed to acknowledge and say what your campaign funds are used for, and they are supposed to be used only for the campaign. Another big bomb Klein drops in his new book All Out War is his publishing of FBI documents warning of violence coming from Antifa and other left-wing groups, which Democrats support. Klein says, in the FBI report that I have reproduced in full in my book, it says that these violent left-wing groups traveled to Europe, met with representatives of Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, or ISIS. They also went to Syria and got bomb-making instructions and toxic chemical instructions. The FBI has followed these people and continue to follow these people now that they are back in America, and, the FBI, believes that when the 2018 midterm elections come, things are going to get hotter and hotter in this country politically and that these groups are going to become more and more violent. The FBI has said in this document, I have in this new book, that these left-wing groups, like Antifa, represent the greatest threat to law enforcement since the 1970s and the Weather Underground. I think these people in Antifa and even Barry Obama have no idea the sleeping giant they will awaken if they decide to go down this road. The American people are very generous and easygoing, sometimes to the point where people from other nations think of us as naive and stupid. But don't let our goodwill be mistaken for being gullible. If you rattle our cages hard and long enough we will strike back. We will not let our nation turn into a third world revolutionary cesspool just because in 2008 and 2012 our citizens decided to suffer from an acute case of white guilt, so they decided to vote for the color of the skins of a man instead of the content of his character. The commander-in-chief of the Japanese army, Isoroku Yamamoto, back during WW2 knew there was no way to invade the US mainland because, as he put it, you cannot invade the mainland United States. There would be a rifle behind every